Vivian, 15.
Guard.
He doesn't want me to draw. He doesn't realize I don't have enough CP to draw.
No, I want Vivian to live.
Hey everyone, this is Curb and I bring you another history match. Today we are continuing the rampage of Ezel, but this time thankfully I'm not going to be the one receiving the punishment. No, instead we do have Tim playing OTT here. Honestly the only person who actually is willing to play OTT, which is kind of the reason why I don't think I've featured OTT yet on this channel yet. I have had the deck built for a while, but I've just had no one that's been willing to play it. Anyways, getting into the match itself, we do have Ezel going first, which is definitely where they want to be. We see Tim riding into that Gemini, swing for that nice 14, and unfortunately, Darren once again gets the full combo Ezel. Bowmains plus Gareth equals grade 3 on your first grade 2 turn. So we are going to be swinging with that really good early tempo, hitting into a draw trigger here, so that's going to keep OTT at that just 1 damage. So definitely probably the most advantageous situation there. Looks like Ezel didn't really have a whole bunch of other cards that it wanted to commit that early game. We see the copy of the Silent Tom being called here. Unfortunately not going to be strong enough to actually hit that Ezel, but of course it can take out that Nemean Lion, and we see a second Silent Tom, so chances are this Nemean Lion is not staying around for long, as we do see it taken down by the first Tom attack. So I'm going to be swinging the Wiseman at the Vanguard, hitting into nothing, no defensive there. Not really going to matter because that Tom is not actually going to be able to hit. Now honestly in this set, Tom is really OCT's only good card. You've got a couple of decent cards, things like Psychic Bird, Luck Bird, but everything is just kind of, you know, just draw a card, but that doesn't really translate too well into early Vanguard very well, considering that, you know, drawing cards is fine and all, but the format is so slow. You really do need to have a little bit of offensive pressure if you really want to have any chance of, you know, closing things out. We do see a 3-card guard here, guarding that Trigger Power plus Vivian column. Kind of just really scared of the skill Vivian because it does have an on hit that is actually going to allow you to call another unit. So we see the CEO Amaterasu being ridden into here, going to be using its skill. It is the Mega Blast unit for OTT. For OTT, probably one of the best Mega Blasts that there is, considering that it has more than just 2 skills. It does actually get an extra 4k so long as you do have those 4 cards or more in hand. Although I will say in this format there really isn't, that doesn't really make that much of a difference. Like, you would need to commit a booster behind Amaterasu to actually have any sort of pressure, but I guess it is kind of nice that Amaterasu is basically able to have a lot of pressure on her own just with like pretty much any booster. Anyways, we do see the Amaterasu swinging in. We see the crit flipped over, which is going to push 2 damage to Ezel. Thanks to that heal trigger, Ezel is going to be staying out of limit break range, swinging the 15, I believe, at that Vivian, trying to take her out, and then swinging this Mocha in at the Vivian once again, just to try to take her out. But looks like we are going to be just committing the cards to guard the Vivian. It's totally possible. We don't really have a ton of like good defensive cards. We see a Nemean Lion there. That would have been a very nice column behind the Gareth. Although it doesn't really matter. You can put anything behind the Nemean Lion, since, you know, at this point most things are like 10k Vanguard. So like making those 16k columns doesn't really matter as much as it probably will later into Vanguard's history. Even next set, it might be a little bit more impactful. As we see the 10k shield being dropped in order to make it a 2 to pass. Without a full board, Ezel is just swinging in for that 13. Swinging the Vivian once again. Looks like it's going after the rear guard here. But of course, Vivian, like most cards in early Vanguard, does actually need to hit the Vanguard in order to actually proc its skill. This Nemean Lion is going to be going after that Mocha, and looks like we're going to be committing a Gemini to protect it. Definitely does make sense. Mocha is a pretty decent card in the sense that it does represent a unit that it is able to actually attack Vanguards unboosted, which is kind of a commodity in this format. We do see the Luckbird being played here, Soul Blasting 2 to draw a card. Unfortunately, Luckbird is probably the worst booster for Amaterasu, considering that it makes a 19k number, which is not really a magic number. If we had a 6k booster at all, like even even that Chocolat would make a nice magic 20. Looks like Ezel's going to be taking that just to have kind of access to that limit break there. Intercepting with the Nemean Lion to protect this Vivian, just desperately trying to keep it alive. I guess we're clinging on to some hope that we will actually be able to proc its skill, but instead we're going to be using the Ezel skill to counterblast to limit break, culling a mark off the top, giving Ezel another 6k, using the skill once again, this time calling a Flame of Victory. So a total of 10k power to Ezel for this turn, which is kind of funny that we literally just said counterblast 4, add 10k, but you know, it is technically advantage on board, so it's not the worst. Using the Flame of Victory skill to go ahead and give power to that Vivian, gonna be making a very nice magic number of 20, which is calling for a 15k guard as we swing this Ezel, who is just absolutely massive. Let's see, that's 21 plus the extra 10k. Sheesh, that is just like a really big swing. We do see a critical trigger being flipped here. Get a defensive critical trigger, I think that was, as we swing this trip in here. Definitely do not want to be taking this because, you know, that does represent counter charge. And sure, like, Ezel doesn't do a whole ton with one counter blast. They technically do need two, but if they just take one more damage, it does give them access to another counter blast. It means things like Garmor. It could theoretically mean another Ezel proc. So you definitely don't want to let this trip actually proc here. And I think with that defensive, this is just going to be a 10k guard here. So that shouldn't be too bad, as we're going to be intercepting and guarding with another Tom. So that's a total of 3 Toms out already. And unfortunately, Tom is kind of your win condition, and unfortunately he's not really a good one, which is why OTT is really struggling at this time. We see the Vivian finally being able to hit, but of course we don't have any CB and we don't even have any open rear guard circles, so that skill is not going to matter in the least. We see the Vanguard swing being PG'd here. We did actually do the check top and we left it on top, so probably scared of another critical trigger, but instead it looks like it's going to be a draw trigger, giving the power to that silent Tom there. And the second check is going to be another draw trigger, so very much bolstering that hand, giving all the effects to that silent Tom. So now he is hitting for 18, which is honestly a little bit of a threat, because normally that would be like a 10k guard, but you can't guard with 10k shields against silent Tom. So that is just going to be either you're taking it or you're going to be committing 2 cards from hand or board, which is currently right now looks like we would just have to intercept, guarding this Mocha with the 10k and then attacking the 18. Looks like we only have triggers in our hand, so if we wanted to guard this, we would have to double intercept, which is definitely not very advantageous in this situation. Now we do actually get defensive there, a nice draw trigger, so Ezel already so far ahead is just going to get even further ahead, in all honesty, as we are just going to be swinging that Vanguard for still a pretty good 21k number. I would say definitely one of the advantages that Ezel has over Garmor is that it doesn't actually require limit break in order to, you know, actually get that extra 5k that Garmor does. We see a critical trigger being flipped here, giving all the effects to that trip. Going to be guarding it desperately, and this 17 is not going to be enough to finish the game, so it is going to go at that Tom, who is going to be blocked by a combination of that Mocha and the draw trigger. So we unfortunately did lose out on a lot of cards in our hand there, so we still do have the 2, so after our turn drive we will be able to go up to 4, so that Mocha is going to actually be able to hit for a decent number, attacking actually anything at this instance, because it is just an 11k attacker. So we swing the Amaterasu for the 14, that's going to go up to 19. We see a heal trigger being procced here and a critical trigger, giving all the effects to that silent Tom. So now this has become a little bit scary here as a silent Tom swings in, but that is of course just going to be a 2-card guard, swinging in the Mocha, using the critical trigger there to guard that last attack. So now OTT once again in the hot seat here. They do have those two 10k shields, so it's not the end of the world, but of course this Vanguard is still being very strong. We thankfully still do have that PG, so things aren't going to be too difficult to guard, as we see a draw trigger being flipped here and a critical trigger, so another double trigger coming out, this time from Ezel, swinging in, guarding it with that double triggers there, swinging the 18 in at that Tom. So now OTT is in that top deck situation, going to be drawing that card. It turns out to be another copy of Amaterasu, the art that Tim prefers, as you can clearly see as the swapping there. You're going to be checking the top card and deciding to just put it on the bottom. This is kind of OTT's last hurrah here. They don't really have another chance. Unfortunately, we do see the Vanguard being PG'd. We see a critical trigger being flipped over here, and unfortunately nothing there. Going to be a grade 3, going to be less than useless. The last two cards, two 10k shields that are just going to be used to guard the Amaterasu, because Mocha no longer has her skill active, so she's not actually going to be able to hit. And it looks like we're just going to be taking this Vanguard swing, and unfortunately no heal trigger there, so that is going to be the end of the match. Is it? Well, it pretty much might as well be, because we just do not have enough shield here. Guarding this one, and then of course the Bowmate is going to be finishing it off there. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to, those of you with the things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.